Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel. Today's video is another episode of my favorite YouTube series, New and Must-Have Crafty Supplies, where I go out and shop for new supplies that I want to try out, and then I share the ones that I love with you all. That way you can see them up close and in action and decide if you want to add them to your card making stash. For today's video, I have some new 3D embossing folders from Memory Box, as well as a couple of new glitter cardstock pads from them. I have a new stamp and die set from Simon Says Stamp, as well as a fun new storage box from them. And I have a couple of new fun embellishments. Stick around until the end of this video because I have a new idea for these videos where at the end, I'm going to share a couple of supplies that I featured before that I still am totally in love with and am buying more of. But for now, let's take a look at the supplies that I bought for today. So here's a little peek at everything I bought for today. First up are the Studio Katia Sparkling Round Gems. I love that they come in a tiny little resealable bag, and I love that they look like actual little crystals. They're all cut faceted and just so pretty, and they do have a flat side so that you can adhere them to cards or use them inside shakers. Next up are the Memory Box Open Studio Fairy Dewdrops. There are 50 self-adhesive little drops in this packet. They remind me of sea glass, the way that they're just slightly opaque and slightly translucent at the same time. Also from Memory Box, I got a couple of glitter cardstock pads. This one is the Glitzy and comes with a ton of different colors, and you get 2 sheets of each color. I've used these glitter cardstock pads before, and I love how thick the cardstock is, but still die cuts and cuts in your paper trimmer beautifully. So you can see all the colors there in that pad. The other pad that I got was the Festive glitter cardstock, and this has a ton of holiday colors. You get everything from gold to champagne to a rose gold. Then there's this really brilliant red, some white, which is really nice for a snowy scene. I actually love this color too for a night sky background. There's some other greens that weren't in the last pad that I shared with you, and another red. So lots of options for holiday cards. This is the Simon Says Stamp Holiday Messages stamp set. You can see you can stamp the full solid image circle and the messages and the little ornament cap. I've also bought the dies that go along with it. So it's just 2 little dies. One is to cut out the ornament and the other is to cut out the cap. And I'll show you lots of ways to use this where you don't necessarily have to stamp the ornament, you don't necessarily have to stamp the cap, and you can if you want to. These are the Memory Box 3D embossing folders. I love these 2 embossing folders. One has circles and the other has squares. They fit A2 paper very easily inside, and they're very easy to create really versatile backgrounds with, and I'm going to share how they look on a bunch of different papers. These are the Simon Says Stamp Positively Everything storage boxes. They come 3 in a pack, and their size is 5.5 by 6.25 by 2 inches. Now I'm going to share how the 3D embossing folders look on the glitter cardstock as well as on some other mediums, and I'll share how to put together that fun little storage box from Simon Says. So first up, I'm going to take a piece of the Festive glitter pad from Memory Box, and I'm going to cut it down to 4.25 by 5.5. These are 6 by 6 sheets normally, and you can see how beautifully they cut in the Tonic Studios Tim Holtz trimmer. They cut in other trimmers as well. They also die cut beautifully. These pieces I will put aside because this glitter cardstock is so gorgeous. I definitely want to use up even the little scraps. So I'm going to put my panel right inside the Ringadings 3D embossing folder. So you can see exactly where you need to place your A2 piece of paper or cardstock because of the design of the embossing folder. I use the Gemini Junior, and when I use 3D embossing folders, I use 1 clear plate, then the embossing folder with the paper inside, and then the magnetic shim. So I'm going to share with you how this Ringading embossing folder looks on Spellbinder's Metallic Mirror Gold cardstock. So you can see there on the glitter cardstock, here on the metallic cardstock, it's a little bit thinner, so you can see all of those details of the rings. Both are pretty. This one is really cool because you can see all those details. For the geometric crystals embossing folder, I'm going to use some blue cardstock. This is from the Stamp Market, so it's a little bit thinner than everything we've used so far, and you can see all of those details of that 3D image that they call the geometric crystals, and I just think that looks so cool. And this is such a versatile background. It's subtle enough that, especially on a white cardstock like this, that you could use it pretty much on any background for any card. I am going to use them with the ornaments, stamp, and die today, but they really could be used throughout the year with lots of different card themes and for lots of different recipients. Here's the assembly of the PAWSITIVELY everything storage box that I shared before. Basically, you just want to reinforce any of the score lines on the box. So I'm just refolding everything to make sure it's all coming together, and it will be easy to create the box once it's all folded up. So once that's done, then all you have to do is kind of pull the sides in and pull the bottom up for 2 of the tab slots to go in there. And then the last thing is just the top. And so the top closes and it just goes through that middle tab. So easy, took me like a minute. Some ideas to store in here. I have A2 pieces of colorful cardstock. I could put those in there, like a whole bunch of them. I have a ton of enamel dots. Those could go in there. Or even if you have a big stack of envelopes, I have 100 of these envelopes that I just bought on Amazon. So they're not super thick envelopes, and I could fit them all inside one of these storage boxes. So lots of ways to use them to keep your supplies neat and tiny. The other way that you could use them is to put your handmade cards inside along with an envelope to match and to keep them really nice until you're ready to send them out. Now let's take a closer look at all the supplies in action and make some cards. For this first card, I'm going to start out using the Simon Says Stamp Holiday Messages stamp set. And this time I am going to use the ornament shape. So I'm going to season it with a little bit of embossing ink first, since it's a solid image stamp and I want it to stamp beautifully from the get-go. You could just stamp off several colors of ink on it. I decided I wanted to use that embossing ink to get this breeze ink to stamp beautifully right away. And I do like to sometimes double or triple stamp to really get great coverage, and that's okay. Every time you see me stamp, I don't show the double and triple stamps, but I do like to do them to get that nice, clear, crisp image. Okay, now I've just lined up the message that's going to go inside. It's very easy to line up. You can tell where it's supposed to go. I am going to heat set this because I did double or triple stamp it. It's probably still pretty wet, and I want the message to stay on top. I'm stamping the message with Fuschia ink from the Stamp Market, and I don't want it to mix in with the ornament ink. So if you heat set it a little bit, that gives you the best bet of not having those mixed together too much. I'm going to stamp the ornament cap with some cobalt ink, and then I'm going to die cut these out, and I'm just going to use another couple of ornaments to fill up my card. So this time I'm stamping the ornament circle with Party ink from the Stamp Market, and then I decided to do some multicolor stamping. So I'm using some Orchid on the top and bottom, and then I'm going to use a Stamp Market blending brush to blend out the harsh lines so that I don't get a real crisp line with the color. I want these to look a lot like those marbleized glass ornaments that you see on trees. So this was how I tried to achieve it. I also did stamp out the cap in Orchid as well. I'm going to stamp my third ornament with the Stamp Market's Ocean ink. I absolutely love those new colors that came out this summer, and I'm going to add some marbling with their navy ink, again just using their blending brush to blend out those harsh lines and make it look more like a marbleized effect. And if you can't get exactly where you want with the blending brush, feel free to use your finger. I know I always have inky fingers and it really doesn't bother me. After a couple of hand washings they come off. So now I'm going to die cut everything coming out. And I have that Ringading embossed piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to use it on top of some of the purple glitter cardstock that was from the Glitzy glitter cardstock pad. So since I'm gluing down to glitter, which does not take a lot of light adhesive like a tape runner, I am using Thermweb's Ultra Bond glue. It's a strong liquid glue that gives you time to move it around to straighten it up. So I do like to place like a large acrylic block on top of it to make sure that it stays flat while it dries. Now I have my ornaments, and I'm going to put some Thermweb foam tape from their jumbo roll behind the ornaments. I'm going to have them kind of whimsical, so they're not going to be straight next to each other. And then I'm going to put a doubled up piece of foam right on top so that this ornament that has the message on it really stands out from the background, because we have that embossed background, we have those marbleized ornaments, but I do want the peace, love, joy ornament to stand out as the main focus of the card. Now I have my die cut caps, and I'm going to use the Ultra Bond just on the bottom of the cap because they do die cut a hole on the top where you could hang the ornament from. So I am just going to place the liquid glue at the bottom of the cap and then place it just on the edge of my ornament. And then once that dries after a minute, it is perfectly fine. I am going to use some silver thread. Now I have tried to use this on several Christmas cards lately, and this thread is so fine and so thin that it can be a little difficult to maneuver and move around. But I do end up with a bow and then cut those extra tails. It's very delicate, so it's hard to see in the video, but it is a really pretty elegant touch. And I'm going to add some of the Memory Box Dewdrops on there just for a little bit of extra embellishment and shine. For this next card, I'm going to use the same Holiday Messages stamp set, but I'm not going to stamp the ornament circle. I'm just going to stamp the messages on white cardstock. So I am going to use the Stamp Market's Apple ink. This is another one from their summer release that I love so much. And I'm going to stamp two different messages, and I'm going to leave room in between them because I am going to die cut them out, and I want to make sure I don't get one cut by the other one. So I die cut them both out, and now I am looking at some different colors of the glitter cardstock. So I have that Ring-a-Ding embossed red glitter cardstock that I am going to cut down to a strip. I think it was about 2 1/4 when I cut it down. And again, these glitter cardstocks, as thick as they are, they do cut beautifully. I'm going to use the same gold glitter cardstock as I'm using on the back of the strip to die cut out those little ornament caps. Again, I didn't stamp them, I just die cut them out, and you can totally tell what they are even without the stamped image. Now I'm going to take those 2 layers of glitter cardstock, and I'm going to use Memory Runner XL, which is a tape runner on the back, because the back of that glitter cardstock is just paper, it's just cardstock. So I can use the Memory Runner XL to adhere it down to the white A2 piece of cardstock. I'm going to pop up these little ornaments with foam tape on top of the glitter. The foam tape sticks very well to that glitter cardstock. It is a very sticky foam tape, and then I'm going to use some of those fairy dewdrops to accent my ornaments. For this next card, I'm going to create a shaker. So I've cut out the circle of the ornament. Now I'm going to cut out the cap on top. And you can see that I'm going to hold it in place with tape, and I have the bottom of the die hanging over the circle that I've already cut. If I don't do that, it's going to look like the cap is floating above the ornament. So you do want to make sure it hangs over the circle that you've already die cut. And then I'm going to cut that out. Then I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it inside the 3D embossing folder so that I'm using the geometric design there. Next, I'm going to take some embossable window plastic. I use this for shakers all the time, but this time it's really important to use an actual embossable window plastic because I'm going to emboss the message on the shaker window. So I'm using some liquid glue to line up that embossed cardstock on top of my acetate, and once that's done, I'm going to cut off the excess. I did trim this panel down to about 4 by 5 1/4. It's maybe even a little bit smaller because I want to mat it on another piece of glitter cardstock. It's really important when embossing on acetate to use a lot of anti-static powder because because acetate is so staticky. So now I'm going to place my message right in the window of the ornament there, and I'm going to ink it up with embossing ink, and I'm using my MISTI just in case I have to stamp it more than once. I believe I only stamped it once because I was afraid of smudging it the second time. That I do that all the time. So now I'm just going to place some white embossing powder on top and then just gently tap off the excess. I did get some behind the window. I'm not really worried about that. It's going to glue back there and get stuck back there, and that's fine. When I'm heat setting on this acetate, you really do have to be careful and just do a little heat at a time. I know this looks annoying to have to do it just like step by step like this, but I tried one before this that I basically warped so much that it was almost unusable. So I do recommend just little bits of heat at a time with a very hot gun. Now I'm going to use the Ultra Bond liquid adhesive to adhere a silver glitter ornament cap right into the window there. So that will be the whole image once it's backed with that glitter cardstock. I'm placing the die on the background glitter cardstock just so that I know where to place my shaker goodies. For now, I'm creating the shaker window itself by adding foam tape all around the ornament to trap the shaker goodies inside. But I wanted to basically first take off the wrappers for that foam tape, and then I'm going to pour the Studio Katia little crystals inside the die that I had set there, take the die out of the way, and then place that foam tape panel right on top. This is another way to do this because that panel is so much smaller than the background. Usually I put the goodies inside the foam tape and then place the background on top. But because this panel is smaller, I wanted to do it this way to make sure it was straight on that background glitter panel. I did glue some of the crystals around the panel as well. And then I have another cap, same color of glitter cardstock, that I'm actually going to tie a ribbon in. This Gina K for Thermoweb white with silver ribbon is some of my favorite. I love that it's like a double-sided, love that it's white, silver, and then kind of that gauzy effect in the center. So I'm going to tie a bow with that, and I'm going to cut those little trim tails on the end by folding up the end and then cutting away from my bow to create those long trim tails. Once that's done, I am going to remove the backing for the foam adhesive, that little piece of foam adhesive that I put on the back, and just put it right on top of the cap that I already glued down. And that is just a really fun way to use that same stamp set to create a shaker window. This time I'm really going to focus on the dies. So I cut out 5 different circles of different colors of cardstock, and I'm embossing 4 of them. I'm going to place one of the cardstock colors into my mini MISTI and use the magnet to hold that circle in place and treat it with anti-static, and then use some silver embossing powder on top. Just gently tap off the excess and then heat set that to create a easy ornament with the silver message right on top. So I love using colorful cardstock to create quick and easy colorful ornaments. And I love having that embossed pattern on them as well, just adds a nice touch. I did not emboss the one that has the message, and I am double popping that up on 2 pieces of foam tape so it really stands out. And then I use the liquid glue to adhere silver glitter ornament caps to all of the ornaments, and I have them in a whimsical line on a slimline size card. I'm going to adhere some of the Studio Katia crystals all around the ornaments, again using that liquid glue. At first the liquid glue will look white. Once it dries, it will dry clear, so you'll be able to see the beauty of those crystals once the liquid glue is fully dry. The last thing I'm going to add is a little bit of silver baker's twine. So it's just got this silver string that runs through the baker's twine, and I'm going to add it just to the one that has the message on it. So I'm just going to tie a little bow. This is much easier to do with the baker's twine than it was with that really thin thread that I was using before, and this is a really pretty look as well because of that additional silver that's added to it. This was such a fun card and easy and quick to create. Now for the two products that I featured previously in new must-have crafty supplies videos. First is the mini domed ink blending foams. I absolutely love these. I keep buying new packages of them. I use them with my distress inks. I'll be using them with other mediums in the future really soon. I'm going to link to a video up in the right hand corner where I first introduced them and talked about how much I love them and how smooth the blend is with them. And next is the Simon Says Stamp A2 holographic rainbows. I was so happy that they came out with the A2 size that represents the entire rainbow. There is so much shine on these. I love using them with embossing folders. A bunch of you have asked me about these. I'm going to link to a video where I featured them up in the right hand corner here, and I will be buying more packs of these in the future. Did you have a favorite product from today's video? I always love to hear what your favorites are, so let me know in the comments below. If you like card making product reviews as well as finding out new tips, tricks, and techniques to use those supplies, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you can be notified every time I have a new video available. As always, I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. It's fine. I'm fine. I'm Rebecca Keppel. Oh, nope, he's out of here. Let's try this again, shall we? I don't know why I put a finger up. That was weird. I will see you again soon. Let's do that one more time.